Hi, I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. I know it doesn't look like I'm doing anything today, but there will be a recipe coming very soon. I just wanted to make this little announcement for you. I have collaborated with another YouTuber to bring you some Easter recipes, and his channel is Our Heritage Works. I'll put the link in the description below. He and I have decided that we would make kind of an Easter progressive meal that you could use one or two or all of the recipes that he and I will be sharing with you. But over the next couple of weeks, we'll be bringing you videos of all kinds of different recipes, from a main course to a side dish to a dessert. So you'll go to his channel and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted when his videos come up. And then you could do the same with me if you're not subscribed. Or if you haven't hit the notification bell below on my channel as well. So you'll be notified every time one of us will post a video. So we're super excited to share this with you. I'm super excited to be working with Our Heritage Works. So again, I'll put the link to his YouTube channel below. And look for the first video starting in this series on Tuesday. And now for the recipe for today. Today I'm going to show you my Pear Vanilla Jam, which will be gluten-free, also sugar-free, and also pectin-free. I really enjoy making jams and jellies and all kinds of things like that. I really enjoy the whole process of it. And in years past, I used to use pectin, and of course I used to use sugar too. But over the last few years, I've really been exploring my options to not use pectin. It's really kind of a tricky thing. You're not supposed to double it. If you double it in your saucepan, it may or may not set up. But I've also realized too, in looking in some really old cookbooks and doing some research online, is that a lot of times the skin of the fruit will create its own pectin. And then sometimes if you just cook it long enough, it will thicken up by itself. Of course, it might not be as gelatinous as pectin would be, or of course a jelly. Jelly's a little trickier. Sometimes you have to use the actual pectin. But I've also been researching making my own pectin out of apples. But at any rate, today we are doing Pear Vanilla Jam. It calls for a lemon, and I don't have any lemons, but I have a very big orange. It doesn't really matter if it's a lemon or an orange or a lime, maybe even a grapefruit for that matter. Recipes like this are usually pretty versatile. You kind of use what you have, throw it in, and see what you get. And this recipe is actually in my cookbook too. Although I'm doing a little bit of a bigger batch today, and the recipe calls for Bartlett pears, which are normally green. When they start to turn ripe, they do turn more yellow. As you can see, these ones are pretty ripe. I've also got, I think they're D Anjou Pears. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. And I know it's spring right now, and pears are not really in season for where I live. But they were on sale at my local grocery store. And it was a really good deal, and I thought, why not? I didn't get a chance to make my Pear Vanilla Jam when pears were in season last year. So why not make it now? It's a really good price. So that's what I'm doing today. And in this bowl, that doesn't look very appetizing, I actually had some frozen pears. And so I've taken those out, and they are thawed. And of course, when you freeze fruit, it turns kind of a brownish color, but it's going to turn brown when we cook it anyways. And it does have a little bit of extra liquid just from having been frozen, but that's fine. So I'm going to get cutting up my pears, and then I've got a bowl for garbage, and then I've got everything ready for canning. And this is just water bath canning that I'll do today. And then I've got a little saucepan way back here with my lids, of course my pot for cooking, and then I've already got my jelly jars in the water in this pot. And I always hate when you take the sticker off of pears, this is what happens. But it is what it is, unless you have a pear tree. And I'm leaving the skins on, as I mentioned. These pears that I have that I frozen, they did have some lemon juice on them already. So it all works the same. And then I've got my vanilla beans, and we'll get to those in a little bit after I've got all my pears cut up as well. And I just take out the core, and then of course cut off any bad spots. And the nice thing is, when it turns brown where the sticker was, I usually just cut that off because who knows what sticky residue is left. And you don't even have to cut these up very small. They really break down when you start cooking them. But if you really wanted a finer texture, especially with the skins on, you could put these in a blender or a food processor and really make it more of a liquid consistency. And I've not ever used this kind of pear for my pear vanilla jam before. So I'm really excited to see how it changes the flavor. And it usually will turn a brownish color with or without the skins on. So I'm hoping that this skin will make it a little more of a reddish color. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It might just turn into a really dark brown. And then you'll have a dark brown jam. But I don't mind at all. It really looks nice in the jar. And then of course, once you get the vanilla beans in there, you can see all the little flecks of vanilla as well. But I know these pears are used for cooking. A lot of times they'll be kind of a poached pear or something like that. Maybe a baked pear. So why not jam? So that's about half of my pears. Oh, and I'd say it's about 9 cups. Such a big orange. But perfect for what I'm doing. And you'll notice I'm not really measuring very much. And I don't even have my honey out yet. I'm waiting to see how many pears I actually get before I determine how much honey I'm going to put in. It's such a big orange for little hands. And it doesn't really have any seeds, and I don't mind if some of this pulp is in there either. I'd say that was maybe 1/3 of a cup or so of orange juice. I've got 8 more pears. I've got 4 more like this and then 4 more of the Bartlett. I'm going to get those cut up and in my pot, and then we'll see how much honey we need. So I ended up getting about 17 cups of pears. And for just a single batch of my pear vanilla jam, it calls for about 3/4 of a cup of honey. Sometimes honey is sweeter than other honey. And so I usually taste my honey first and see how much I want to add in. Today I'm going with 1.25 cups. And then sometimes, of course, the fruit. If your fruit isn't super sweet, which because my pears aren't actually in season here, they don't have as much sweetness as they would if they were in season. So that's what I'm doing with my sugar quantity or honey quantity. And then vanilla beans. I'm going to put in 3 vanilla beans. If you've looked at the recipe in my cookbook, you don't have to use vanilla beans. You could just use regular vanilla extract, which you would add in towards the end. Or you could use vanilla bean paste, which you would also add in towards the end. But because I'm using whole beans today, I'm going to cook the whole bean and the seeds the whole time. And then we'll remove the pod later. And if you've never seen vanilla beans, this is what they look like. They look like a really big, wrinkly green bean. And then what you do is you just split it down the middle. I got a smaller knife because it's easier than my really big knife. But you just split it down the middle. And then, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see all of the seeds inside of there. And then you just take your knife, and I usually turn it over so it's the dull side. And then you just scrape. If you use the sharp side, sometimes you'll cut more of the bean than you want to. And that's what it looks like. I don't know if you can hear all that. Birds are out there, dogs are out there, all kinds of wildlife today. Even if your vanilla bean looks a little skimpy, you can really get a lot. And then I just use the bean and scrape off my knife, or even a piece of fruit. And then I've just got my large 8-quart stock pot over here. And I'm gonna just dump in my honey. I'm gonna turn my heat to about medium-high just till it gets going. And then with my spatula, I'm gonna give everything a really good stir. I'm actually gonna switch to my really big spoon. I bury the vanilla beans just so they get in the mixture and really get softened and submerged in this liquid. You can see how much liquid is in here. It already smells really good. I'm gonna actually turn on my jars here as well, just on low, but it's such a large amount of water to bring up to a boil. So I usually just start it out on low, and then this is on high just until it starts simmering, and then I'll turn it down to about medium or so. Now that my pears and vanilla beans are boiling, I'm going to turn it down to about medium. Now that my pears are softened, I'm going to start mashing with my potato masher. You can see how much my pear vanilla jam is cooking down, and periodically I've been stirring it and mashing it with my potato masher just to break up some of the big pieces, but it is getting thicker. And this has been simmering for about an hour and a half. I want it to reduce down a little bit more and get a little bit thicker. You can see how thick my jam is getting. And it's soft enough, I've just been mashing it with my spoon against the side of the pan. It's almost as thick as I want it to be. So I'm turning my big pot here up to high. As soon as this comes up to a boil, we'll be ready to put our jam into our jars. I've got everything ready, and I'm gonna turn on my lids just on low, or probably medium, just to get those heating up as well. And you'll notice once your jam is getting thicker, you do need to stir it a little more continuously. And while my jars are coming up to a boil, I'm getting out my vanilla beans. My jars are coming up to a boil. I don't know if you can hear that or not. I rearranged my assembly line. Jam here, and then I brought my towel closer because I'll take out the hot jars right here. I have a bowl of my lids. I have a little jar here. Sometimes there's leftover jam that won't fit into a jar that I'll can, so I always have a little bowl or something ready. A ladle, a funnel, my jar lifter, my lid lifter, hot pads, and a dish rag. And then I saved my cup that I had my honey in with the spatula just to scrape out the bowl when I'm getting near the end of it. And now that this is boiling, I am going to turn it down to low. Seems contradictory to turn it up to high and then turn it back down, but I'm going to be standing right here. I don't want it to splatter on me. And my lids are just up to a simmer. And now we just get started. Be very careful. Everything is really hot. So you just get a jar, and these are jelly jars. Let's get this big spoon out of the way here. And you want to leave a little bit of room And I've got 13 jars. You never know how much it's gonna make. And then just take your dish rag and wipe the rim. And I'm going about a 1/2 inch from the top. And these oven mitts really are great for handling these hot jars. Tighten it on there. And then we'll go right back into the water. And just keep going. I've got some little tiny jars here. I'm gonna take them all out at once, just to make it easier on myself. Wipe off your lid, wipe off the rim, get your lid, get a ring, and tighten it up. And it really is looking very pretty. Back into the water. Oh, already made a mess. Look at that. And I love these little tiny jars. They're about 1/2 of a jelly jar size, but they're perfect for gifts, for somebody that maybe has never had this jam before and they just want to try it out. You don't want to give somebody a jar of something that they might not like and then they have a lot to eat. So lid, rings, and tighten it up. And back into the water. And you can see they're not super duper brown. I was expecting a little bit more from the red skin, but it really is a nice color. And I'm actually going about 1/4 of an inch from the top. And this is all 13 of my jars. I've got more than I thought I would left over. I'm going to turn that back up to high, bring it back up to a boil, and then boil for 10 minutes. Of course, it depends on what your altitude is. Fill up that little jar here. And if you have a cute little jelly jar that you could just stick in the fridge, could even go a little bit more. You know, growing up, it wasn't a Sunday dinner or a party if you didn't have a jelly dish on your table. And this one was my grandma's. And it actually has a little spot for the spoon to go. But how cute is that? And then that little jar. So this is probably about the size of a regular jelly jar, 4 or 6 ounces, whatever those are. And then this one, and I've got 13 in there, so it probably would have been a total of 15 little jars. But how cute and fun are those? This is almost up to a boil. As soon as it starts rapidly boiling, I'll go for 10 minutes. Already popping. Okay. And I have an English muffin. I toasted an English muffin to try my jam. And I found the spoon that goes with my jelly jar. And then, as I mentioned, it just fits right in where this little notch is. I am not a commercial for jelly jars, but I think they're so fun. And you can see the vanilla beans in here. But it really is nice and thick, and of course, as it cools off, it will get thicker. Perfect. Let's give it a bite. It really is so good. I'm just going to take a little bite here with my spoon. So good. And even though I've mashed up the pears, there's still some pretty big chunks, but really soft texture. What a delicious jam. One of my favorites. For years I would make this every fall, and then I would have it ready for Christmas gifts for people. And then, you know, you kind of feel like sometimes you want to change things up a little bit, so you make something different. And this is my most requested. People always say, when are you going to make that again? Why didn't you make it this year? Where is it? I need some more. In fact, when I told my sister that I was making this today, she said, I haven't had that in so long. I'm glad you're making it. When am I going to get a jar? But it really is so good. Of course, if you like pears, and the orange flavor really doesn't come through at all. You notice a little bit of brightness, but the vanilla is really coming through. And if you like it a little more on the tart side, you could add more lemon if you wanted to, or even orange juice. But it really is the perfect combination. And it goes amazing with my English muffins. I hope you try this recipe, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll see you on the next one.